everyone, and welcome to today's Explainer. Today, we're basically stepping right into the seminar room to decode something that is a huge and honestly kind of intimidating part of the modern professional world, the group discussion. If you've ever wondered how recruiters use these totally unscripted chats to peer into your professional methodology, or how on earth you're supposed to stand out in a sea of highly opinionated voices, well, you're in exactly the right place. We're going straight to our source material today to break this all down. We're going to be systematic, academic, and highly practical. Let's dive in, shall we?
Okay, so here's our syllabus for the session. We'll start with the purpose of these discussions and how they're assessed, then move into some real-world strategies, the specific language you should be using, and finally, we'll wrap up with the grammar mechanics you need for absolute precision.
All right, Module 1, the purpose of discussions. Let's look at why recruiters actually rely so heavily on this specific tool.
To kick things off, let's put on our professor hats for a second and use the Socratic method. I want to pose a few warm-up questions directly to you, just like our source text does. Think about this for a second. What are the usual topics for these discussions? When you've got a dynamic group, who is actually considered the leader? And ultimately, how do the participants and the observers know that the purpose of the discussion has been achieved? Just let those simmer in your mind for a moment.
Okay, let's get into the academic answers for those. First up, topics. Honestly, it could be literally anything. The text notes that everything under the sun has been debated. That means you can't just memorize facts to win. You have to master the actual framework of the discussion. Second, the leader. It's rarely just the loudest person in the room. Leadership is often identified pretty subtly. It emerges when someone carefully guides all that chaotic group energy into a clear structure. And third, the purpose. You don't achieve the purpose by crushing your opponents in some kind of intellectual combat. No way. It's achieved via consensus and direction. The whole goal is synthesis, bringing a bunch of different ideas into one unified conclusion.
There's a really profound realization in the text here. It says nothing reveals attitudes, behavior, and skills as when unlike minds sit down for a discussion. The author suggests that maybe group discussions were the brainwave of some management gurus, or maybe just panicky HR departments, but whoever it was, they completely hit the nail on the head. A discussion forces you to integrate essential workplace skills while under pressure. Think about it. If a candidate, let's call him Jamal, instinctively shouts down a rival during a 15-minute assessment, the recruiter can logically deduce he's going to do the exact same thing during a high-stakes brainstorming session at the office. The discussion is literally just a microcosm of future workplace behavior.
Let's actually test this out. We're going to rapidly grade the Activity 1 quiz from our text and look at the why behind each answer. So 1. Why use discussions? The answer is C. They test integrated workplace skills. The modern workplace doesn't exist in a vacuum. You need knowledge, EQ, and communication all at once. 2. What do they predict? Answer A. How a candidate will function in the workplace environment. 3. Traits of bad participants. That's C. Being aggressive, panicky, or overly opinionated. Those traits absolutely destroy collaboration. 4. The best way to be heard. B. Creating recall value. You want to be memorable, not just loud. And finally 5. Having an opinion. Well, an opinion is useless in a vacuum, so the answer is D. You have to express it effectively.
Moving on to Module 2, Decoding the Recruiter Assessment. Now we're going to look through the analytical lens of an actual evaluator, HR Director Ahmed Raja Khan.
So, the absolute crux of the evaluator's rubric revolves around this concept of meaningful contribution. According to the HR perspective we're looking at, your goal isn't just to talk, it's to be noticed for helping the group reach a consensus. You've got to put forth highly logical arguments, and you've got to ensure people actually hear you, which takes assertiveness. But, and this is absolutely crucial, we need to make a massive academic distinction here. Assertiveness is making sure your voice is heard respectfully. Arrogance, that's talking over people, dismissing their points, and demanding they submit to your idea. Evaluators will severely penalize arrogance.
Let's clear up some major behavioral myths highlighted in the text's Activity 3. On the left, we've got the myths. The idea that you should politely wait your turn, that you need to be really loud to dominate, or that talking the most means you're winning. Well, actually, scratch that. Look at the facts on the right. In a corporate setting, nobody is going to just hand you the floor. You have to intelligently create opportunities to jump in. And you don't do it by shouting. You use effective language and a confident posture. Plus, quality always beats quantity. Rambling for 3 minutes with zero substance is going to score way lower than delivering a precise 30-second insight that completely shifts the group's trajectory.
This perfectly shows how the macro flow of the whole group impacts your micro-individual score. Let's look at the matching answers for discussion flow. When things progress logically, it leads to outcome E. It displays a collective sense of direction, which boosts everyone's score.
But if participants are interrupting all the time, that's outcome A. Definitely not a positive feature. It ruins cohesion. An uninvolved apathetic style, outcome D, marked very low on the scale. It's always important to achieve B, the purpose of the discussion, which remember is consensus. And lastly, any information shared needs outcome C, to be deeply analyzed. Just throwing a fact out there isn't enough. You've got to provide intellectual depth.
All right, Module 3, Strategies for Meaningful Contribution. How do we take all this theory and actually use it in the room?
The text uses an awesome analogy to explain recall value. Imagine panning across a massive football stadium filled with thousands of screaming fans. The camera only focuses on a select few. Maybe they have uniquely painted faces or a really clever sign. They stand out. In a discussion, you don't stand out by being hysterical. You create recall value by opening with a brilliant framing statement, making your points with impact, and managing conflict calmly. But here's the biggest paradigm shift you need to make. It is you and the group, not you against the group. If you see the room as enemies to defeat, you'll fail. If you see them as colleagues to collaborate with, you'll absolutely crush it.
Now, to pull these strategies off, you need the right vocabulary. Let's look at the Activity 2 vocab drill. When someone is visibly overwhelmed, the word is panicky. A sudden, amazing insight, that's a brainwave. When someone just grunts yes or no to a complex point, they're speaking in monosyllables, and you should avoid that entirely because it makes you look like you have nothing to add. Someone obstructing progress is creating a roadblock, and starting a new topic is initializing. Using precise multisyllabic vocabulary like this inherently signals competence to your evaluators.
Okay, Module 4, the language of discourse. Let's look at the exact phrases you need in your conversational toolkit. When you want to share an opinion, you can't just lob raw facts like grenades. You need formal structures. Phrases like, in my opinion, I firmly believe, or it seems to me that, actually soften your assertions and invite people to engage. If you agree with someone, validate them. Say, I completely agree, or I couldn't agree more. And if you have to disagree, keep it strictly professional. Use something like, I disagree entirely and here is why. Or, I have some reservations about this approach. It's all about injecting your views fluidly while maintaining a really high level of decorum.
But you know, what happens when things get messy? Handling interruptions requires some serious tact. If someone cuts you off, don't shout them down. Use a neutralizing phrase like, if I may just finish what I was saying, or if you don't mind, I'd like to complete this thought. On the flip side, if you genuinely need to interrupt to save the group from a massive tangent, soften the blow. Say, I'm sorry to interrupt, but we really must consider this. This keeps you assertive without crossing into that arrogant territory we talked about. As we established, true leadership is guiding the group to a goal. When you're steering toward a conclusion, the best move is to summarize the major stances. You want to use collaborative phrasing here. Things like, so, can we agree on? Or, we seem to have arrived at a consensus that, or, why don't we bring all these excellent ideas together? The psychology here is key. You're inviting shared ownership of the conclusion, not just dictating it to them. Building support through inclusive language? That is the hallmark of a true leader.
Activity 4 in the text has this brilliant mental simulation called the dice game. It basically trains you to adapt on the fly. Imagine rolling a die and landing on a random scenario. Step 1 might force you to instantly frame an opening line. Then, boom, the group reacts, and Step 2 requires you to pivot and pull the quieter people into the conversation. Step 3 might stick you in a spot where you have to disagree politely but firmly with some flawed logic. And Step 4, you have to magically synthesize all that chaos into a neat summary. Mastering a discussion means having the mental agility to instantly deploy the right phrasing for whatever step the room is currently on. Finally, Module 5, Grammar Mechanics. Even with a brilliant strategy, your underlying grammar needs to be sharp. The text highlights a very specific and honestly often misunderstood rule about sensory verbs.
Let's deconstruct this. Sensory verbs, like seeing, hearing, feeling, can be followed by either an infinitive without to or a present participle. But here's the catch. The choice completely changes the timeline of the action. If you use the infinitive, like I saw him jump, it means it was a momentary, completed action. You saw the whole thing, start to finish. But if you use the present participle, like I saw him jumping, it indicates a continuous process. You're emphasizing that you were observing an ongoing action over time.
Let's play Grading Professor again and look at the context clues in Activity 5. Number 1. Today I could see the peacock dancing. We use dancing, the participle, because a peacock's display is an ongoing process. Number 2. The watchman had seen Rashid break a window. Break is an infinitive because shattering glass is a sudden, completed action. Number 3, feeling the earth shaking. An earthquake is an ongoing process, so it's a participle. 4. Smelling, the toast burning. Burning takes minutes, so it's a continuing action. And 5. I saw it lying there. Lying is a continuous state of rest, so again, we use the participle.
All right, let's finish up the quiz. Number 6. Listening to the music playing. Music unfolds over time, so it's continuous. 7. She watched me write my name. Signing a name is quick and completed from start to finish, so we go with the infinitive write. 8. Heard him singing. A song is a continuing process. 9. See the child trembling. Trembling is an ongoing physical state, so it takes the participle. And 10. Heard him shout. A shout is a singular burst of sound, unlike singing, so it's the infinitive. Nailing these little grammatical details ensures you sound precise and authoritative.
So, let's pull all these cheat codes together. First, remember that group discussions aren't debate clubs, they're tests of your integrated workplace skills. Second, HR universally values the logical quality of what you say way more than the quantity. Stop talking just to talk. Third, use those structured discourse phrases to introduce ideas, handle interruptions, and collaborate like a pro. And lastly, true leadership isn't about being the loudest, it's about your ability to synthesize ideas and build consensus.
I want to leave you with a final thought based on our deep dive today. Very few environments reveal your professional character quite like an unscripted discussion. So next time you sit down with unlike minds, you've got a choice to make. Are you going to be just another unstructured, panicky voice in the crowd, or are you going to use these frameworks to be the clear, assertive catalyst for consensus? The choice and the resulting recall value is entirely up to you. Thanks so much for joining me for this explainer. Keep learning, keep structuring those arguments, and I'll catch you next time.